What if enmeshment is actually holding you back from your highest potential? What is enmeshment exactly? Enmeshment is a system, usually a family, with diffuse, meaning no boundaries, right? So basically, everyone is just invested in everyone's shit. It's kind of like this. You're enmeshed, right? The opposite of that would be individuation, differentiation, and individuality and independence, which looks like that. Healthy systems breed that, which is, again, like I was saying before, individuality, individuation, healthy boundaries, differentiation, right? But people that come from systems of enmeshment, they end up looking like that, right? And then a lot of people end up forming relationships that look like that because it's comfortable and familiar. That's the reality of it, right? I love this whole thing of enmeshment, and I believe it was Salvador Minuchin that was the first one that originated this term, right? And why would enmeshment hold you back from reaching your highest potential? Well, if you're enmeshed with somebody, if you're enmeshed with people, right, you're very much invested in their opinion of you. And therefore, with that, your sense of worth, your sense of value is going to be glued to them. It's going to be tied to them, right? So you're probably going to spend your entire life wondering not only how they see you, but also how other people see you, right? The FOO, the family of origin, has a lot to do with how we approach our lives, right? The term familiar, right? It goes back into familial, which goes back into family. So much of how we live our lives on a day to day basis is very much based inside of that. And if that has to be, if it has to do with enmeshment, right? If that is where we came from, that's likely what it is that we're going to seek out. Unless, of course, we do some seriously deep fucking work in therapy and we change, right? Um, how is it that enmeshment would stop us from reaching our highest potential? Well, highest potential in an individual, as I see it, has to do with healthy boundaries, first and foremost, individuation and differentiation, which ultimately lead to a clearer sense of self. A clearer sense of self follows then with a person actually knowing who the fuck they are and what the fuck they want. And they're less likely to allow themselves to remain stagnated in this system that is constantly telling them who they are, right? That's the wild thing about a system of enmeshment is that it has absolutely zero fucking problem with telling you who you are. And it's there to remain in that homeostatic sense of being, right? Oh, you're part of this system. You are meant to remain here. This is all you've ever known, and this is all you'll ever be. You need to worry about our emotions. You need to worry about our shit. Our shit is your shit. Our emotions are your emotions. And you need to stay stuck here because it's comfortable for us. It's familiar to us. And any time that you try to move beyond that, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. Enmeshment is a very sticky system. It's very that. And the reason why it stagnates people, the reason why it stops people from reaching their highest potential is because if you are caught up in a system of enmeshment, there's a very good fucking chance that you don't have one, healthy boundaries, two, individuation, and three, differentiation. All those things are crucially important for the overall health of any individual. And if you are stuck inside of enmeshment, there's a really good chance that you don't have a very healthy and developed sense of self. You're just focused on the system. You're focused on what the system needs. You're focused on feeling responsible for people's emotions. You're probably totally out of touch with yourself, right? And that's the reality of it. And so, understanding that the opposite of enmeshment, which is healthy boundaries, healthy individuation, healthy differentiation, is the path to the higher self, right? In enmeshment, there was probably something that happened very early on in life that had you stagnated in some level of underdevelopment, right? Emotional immaturity. Maybe you have the emotional maturity of a little boy or a little girl. It's not good or bad or right or wrong, but it's important to see that for what it is and understand that that's what's causing you to remain stagnated there and continuing to see life that way, continuing to see life that way rather than this way. There are systems out there that are the opposite of enmeshment, where the person is seen as an individual autonomously with their own likes, dislikes, wants, needs, static personality. They can be who they want to be because they have boundaries, and the system that they came from has boundaries, right? And they were allowed to take on that healthy individuation and differentiation and actually develop a much more clear sense of self in a healthy way, right? And then that leads them to actually be able to think and feel and choose for themselves, which then leads them on this path of evolution going upward, right? Where they get to make decisions for themselves, where they get to do for themselves, where they get to experience for themselves. And they don't have to worry about this glob of a homeostasis system that just wants to keep them trapped inside of these comfortable and familiar, but exceedingly dysfunctional and fucked up, unhealthy dynamics. Enmeshment is very unhealthy. It is, because it does not breed individuals who get to live their own lives. No, it breeds people that are stuck inside of this fucked up system that feel obligated and guilty, and they shame them for it, and they make them feel like they need to stay real close. They need to stay stuck inside of this box that was created for them, this prison that they were born into, where they don't get to have their own life. Oh, that's selfish. You should feel guilty for that. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should feel obligated to stay close by. You should feel obligated to caretake fucking emotions that aren't yours. But there aren't any boundaries. There aren't any healthy boundaries in place. So you learn this obligation that you've got to stay around and be ready to caretake somebody's emotions because that's your responsibility. Instead of developing your own nervous system, learning how to regulate your own nervous system, learning to be attracted to healthy nervous systems. Think about how many people are not attracted to healthy nervous systems, and therefore, with that, they're actually attracted to unhealthy objects, right? There's a clear difference between a healthy nervous system and an unhealthy nervous system. A clear difference, right? I've known what it's like to be attracted to unhealthy nervous systems. I'm not going to say why, but there's a clear difference there, right? And when you're attracted to unhealthy nervous systems, you're usually attracted to dynamics in relationships where it is enmeshed. It is chaos. Their shit is your shit. They have no capacity to deal with their shit. They expect you to regulate their shit, as an external regulator. And it's just wild. Enmeshment stops people from reaching their highest potential because it doesn't allow for individuality. It doesn't allow for autonomy. It doesn't allow for you to think and feel for yourself. Your emotions are shared with somebody else. What they are is what you are, right? And that really stagnates anybody from achieving actual growth. It stops them. It's a blockage. Enmeshment is probably one of the biggest blockages to anybody's highest potential. But you can reach your highest potential. So, what would you have to do? Well, set healthy boundaries and realize that what's going to come with that, because the system is comfortable and familiar with boundarylessness and you being completely, totally entangled in their life, is a lot of fucking pushback. Yeah. When you set healthy boundaries with a system of enmeshment, because you realize that this isn't what you actually want, you're just comfortable and familiar with it, there's going to be a lot of backlash. There's going to be a lot of people in that system or other people that you've also established a dynamic of enmeshment with, trying to suck you back in, make you feel obligated and guilty and ashamed for your actions of trying to fucking up and leave, right? But the reality of it is that systems of enmeshment stop people from actualizing their highest potential. And it is because of the lack of healthy boundaries. It is because of the lack of individuation and differentiation. Imagine living your entire life with the belief that you cannot do for yourself because you have to caretake all of these other people. Imagine living your entire life with this belief that it's you're responsible to caretake full-grown adults because you learned that that was your role. It's wild when we learn that something that is actually not our role is our role, and it leads us to live a very specific limiting lifestyle because that's what we learned. Yeah. Yeah, that's some seriously fucked up shit, and that'll stop you from actualizing your absolute highest potential and achieving your highest self.